What's going on, everybody? So, for the past 2-3 weeks, I've been trying out a new cam software. And don't worry, this is just the first one I'm trying out. I got a whole lineup of cam software I'm going to be looking at and doing a series of videos on so we can explore the different options out there, what they have to offer, and how much they cost. So, normally with cam software, you have an evaluation period where they prevent you from using certain tools or limiting your size or preventing you from generating G-code. Well, Estlcam doesn't do any of that. Nope. They just have one increasingly longer and longer caveat, which I think is quite genius and generous at the same time. So, what can you expect in this video? Well, first, we're going to go over what Estlcam is and its abilities. We're going to talk about the cost as timing of this recording. We're going to go over setting it up and generating your first G-code. You know what else you can expect? A shout out to our sponsor, CNC Labs, maker of the LongMill. Now, I love my LongMill. I've got to make so many great projects on it. You can see some of them behind me, but one of the other things I love about the LongMill is the community. From their Facebook page to their forum, there's just such a great gathering of people and wealth of information that are just willing to share it and be there and help you out as well. So if you're interested in a LongMill, go check out the links below. Let's get into this video. So, what is Estlcam? Well, it's a cam software. No cat. Well, I take that back. It does have a text feature, but overall, it is purely cam. You're not going to be editing your DXF or SVG files in this. You are going to be creating toolpaths, whether if that's 2D, 2.5, or 3D. It also has photo processing, so you could do halftone or image V carves, also do laser. This thing has a lot of different layers to it. What we're going to be focusing on is the 2D aspect today. And we're just going to be briefly touching on that. But I did want to mention those other features because for the price, I mean, that's just phenomenal. You could be paying double that with some of the other software out there. Now, does it have the most fancy render techniques to see what your carves are going to be looking like? No. I can live with that though, because of the ultimate control it gives you over your tools, how they interact, saying, I want it to go at a 15-degree angle in this pocket cut. I mean, this software lets you do what you want it to do. So, let's talk about cost. It is free to download and use, and you can use it for, I don't know how long yet. I've been using it for 2 to 3 weeks, and I'm still have every single function. But that caveat I talked about in the intro, anytime you go to open a previous project or export your G-code, before you can hit that OK button, you get a timer. And it starts at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm at 30 right now, but this software costs $60 and I have not bought it yet because I wanted to show you guys that counting timer, but I am going to buy it even if I don't end up using it because I really think this software is amazing and I want to support the developer. From what I've read, it's a one-man team doing all this, so hats off. But I think that's all we have to talk about for what it is and how much it costs. So let's jump into setting it up and take it from there. All right, so we got Etzel open here. I mean, it's Etzel now. I mean, we're on our first name basis. I don't have to say Cam anymore. But like I said, I've been using this 2-3 weeks. The install is a little fuzzy. Can't really remember what it goes through, but that's okay. We can still talk about setting it up here. So if we go to setup and we click on CNC programs, we're greeted with this pop-up screen here. And this is where you're going to select your post processor. So depending on your machine is going to determine which one here you need to select. I'm using the Long Mill, so I have Gerbil selected. If we go down here, length unit, and that's going to determine how everything communicated with the machine. I'm using millimeters. My machine is set up for millimeters. That's what we're going to use, millimeters. After that, you can determine if you're going to use millimeters per minute, per second, inches, whatever, but that's where you would select it there. You can change the file extension, and you have some other options right here, but let's go on to the next part real quick, which is text. Now, text opens up another subcategory under it. You can see we have program start. So we can inject whatever we want right here that we want at the beginning of all our GCode file generation. And at the end, we can inject what we want there. So let's say we wanted to go back to job 0. We could put in x00 0.000, y 0.000. And so it would always take us back to job 0. However, we're going to take that out for now because there's another way to do that. And then there's also other tools here. So if you're using a different machine, say you can actually do tool changes with your machine, you can change them here, and you can add additional laser, plasma, water jet, etc. in here. We're not going to really talk about coordinates or anything. That's more for the Estlcam control part. Yes, they have a control software as well. I haven't used that, but it is available if you need it. And then your commands are here, and formatting. For the most part, you're just going to mess with the presets and the texts unless you have some other major things you need to change for your machine. All right. And then if you want to save those settings, hit Save Settings. We'll hit OK. Now let's go back to Setup, and we're going to go to the basic settings. Now, these are the basic settings. Language, what measurement to use for importing certain types of files. So for DXF, I have it as ask each time, and you'll see what that does when we import our test piece. STLs, length of unit in CNC programs. Again, I got mine set to millimeters. And length units in Estlcam, again, millimeters. Feed units, that was in the other window as well. But again, here, clearance plane. Let's talk about that one. That is your retract type. That's how far up does the Z go from the top of your workpiece to make sure it clears everything. And that's where you can set that. I have mine set to 3. Set yours accordingly. Milling direction. You can even change between conventional and climb in directions. Z axis origin. This just means, hey, do we want on top of the workpiece, or do we want to zero out at the machine bed? I have mine set for the workpiece top. And then CNC program start at clearance plane. And then CNC program end. This is where I was saying, remember, we could put X 0.0000, Y 0.000. Well, this you can say you want the program to end at origin, above last position. So I have above origin. Pretty simple, pretty cool. And then again, you can select your post processor here as well. But those are just the basic settings. So if you just needed to change something real quick, you can go through that. If you need to dive in a little bit deeper, go with the CNC program settings. All right. So one of the things hiding off to the side of my screen here is this box. And this is your tool list. So you can see mine has a bunch of bits I've already changed up and everything. So yours will be a little bit different if you just downloaded it. And to add a new tool, really simple. Click here, new tool. Click here, new tool. Very simple. Also, very easy to delete. So be careful. Now, let's say we're going to add a new tool. Let's just say we're doing a 3 flute and 3mm. Cool. This first one right here, let's turn the sound off. First one right here is the diameter, the outside diameter of your bit. We said it was 3mm. We're going to put 3mm. Next is your Z, depth of cut, DOC. So we're going to say 1.5 on this. And then this one right here is the plunge angle. So they all start at 90, and that just means it goes in straight down and starts cutting to your DOC. If you see this one here, 45, that means it's taking a 45-degree angle into the cut before it gets to that DOC. Very cool that you can control that right from here. Then F, feed rate. Well, pretty self-explanatory there. And then F down, Z, that's your how fast your Z goes down. We're going to change that to 450. And then if you have a spindle, you can control your spindle rate here. Now, that's nice, quick, easy, but let's see if you wanted some more options. Come out over here to this little wrench. There we go. Now you have even more options for fine-tuning the details of your bit. We're not going to get into all this, but you can see there's a lot more here you can do. It even gives you the chip thickness. You have a lot of options here to come in and fine-tune your settings on your bits. Again, we're not going to mess around with that over here. Probably the only main thing I would say is the step over. Now, as I've been talking, you've probably seen, here, let's hover above one of these little pop-up boxes in here. I love that about this, especially in a new software program where it gives you a visual and then it goes into detailed example of what you're doing there. So you don't have to keep cross-referencing and looking up or Googling something. It's all right there, what it does. That's on pretty much every single button and selection you can use in here. Now, let's jump into actually working on a file. So as you can see, we got a blank screen. Before you can do anything, you have to import a file or open a previous project. By importing a DXF, SVG, STL, or a JPEG is going to determine what tools and how this is going to function. For our case, like I said, we're doing 2D. So we'll go to File, Open, and we're going to open Test Image DXF. And remember that setting where I said ask for measurement? Here it is. That's why it does that. If I want to turn that off, I can click there. Okay, not going to ask me anymore. All right, so we got our test file here. And remember I said this is cam only, no CAD. I have selected, and I can't select anything. No, but I can move it, rotate it, flip it horizontally, vertically, resize, tile it, or stamp. But to do that, let's say we want to move it. TP stands for toolpath. DXF, that means we want to move the DXF. So notice it selects everything, not just the outer circle, the H, anything like that. It only selects the whole file, and then you can move it. That's it. We want to put it back. We can go 0, 0, 0. There we go. Let's hit back on select, get off of that. Now let's talk about the other parts here. The first one is part. So let's say I wanted to cut out this outer ring on the outside of the line. First thing I would do is I would select what bit I'm going to use. So I'm going to use the acrylic 5.75 bit. Click on that ring And notice it drew this line on the outside of there. That also pops up this other window and labels it part 1. We can set the tool depth, how far we want to cut. Let's say it's 6 millimeters long, so we're going to cut 6 millimeters deep. Start level. Let's say we have already cut out a part and we want to start at -2 millimeters down as opposed to starting at 0. So you can select that there. Machining order, we'll talk about that later. And then if you had any tabs or anything, this is where you would adjust those. Pocket strategy, we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then we still have more options here for holding tabs, start, lead in, overcut. Now, overcut, that's a great feature when you have 90-degree corners and you're trying to inset something. That's where you would use those. But right now, we're just cutting that part out, so we're good. So we'll come back to select, and you can see that line is blue because it's saying we're cutting 6 millimeters deep. Let's go click on hole, and let's just say we were cutting the inside this and wanted to go only 3 millimeters down, right? 3. We'll select off, and notice it's a different color. Each color represents how far down you're cutting. So if I clicked back here and said 6, it's going to be the same color as my outside line. But again, we want that 3. And that was a hole cut because that hole is going on the inside of the line. Now, let's say I wanted this from in between these two lines. I want it raised. I'm going to go part on the outside of this. Now I'm going to go back to select this hole cut, and I'm going to press island. And what that did is now it's pocketing everything between those two cut paths. And right now it's set at linear. You can see that here. You have 3 pocketing strategies: linear, parallel, and peel. Personally, I like parallel, so I'm going to change it to that. And you can go ahead and read up on those. And then you can even change the pocketing angle, what angle it goes at. So if it was linear, you could say 45 degrees. I want to pocket at 45 degrees. Again, so much control with your tools. All right, now let's work inside here. We're going to do another island cut. So we're going to go hole here, part here. So it's going outside, inside. Now on the thing with this island, click on the outside part. And I found it is better to choose what pocketing strategy you want first. And let's just hit pocket and I can show you what happens. See that red? That means it's pocketing out that whole area. So we have to come back here, delete it, make another hole on this part. And then now let's change it over to parallel, island, let it think, and there it goes. It island that out. Pretty simple. All right, let's say we want to get rid of this pocket here. Oh, helps if I select it. All right, we're going to delete this. Let's just say I wanted to use a V bit, just put a V groove in there. So we're going to come up here to my 90-degree bit. We're going to go to engraving, which means just on the line, and select there. And let's just say I want to go 2 millimeters there. And now that's just going to create a V groove along that. It doesn't have to be a V bit. You could do a normal down bit, upcut bit, whatever, straight bit, ball nose bit, whatever. But be careful here. is that when you're on one of these tools and you click on another line, you just create another tool path like I did there. So we're going to come here, delete, and you can also see on engraving over here, you can engrave on the center of the line, left side or right side. So you can change on engraving. I've just basically used it for on the line. Alrighty. What else can we talk about here? So what you've been seeing so far is automatic shape detection with the DXF I imported. You can also do manual shape detection. So you can even just come in and manually draw your toolpath. I have not had a reason to do this, but it is available. And let's just go ahead and complete this. Go all the way around. And again, it gives us our tool path there. If we zoom in, we can see that. Now, let's say I forgot to change my bit. That's fine. I can make sure I'm selected on that part. Now I'm going to select, let's try my acrylic 2.15. And there it goes. It changes the bit for me. That's all pretty cool. Let's go ahead. We're going to delete that and this one. Let's go back and pocket out this part here. Now you can also see there is this dotted line here. That's my work area. And as you can see on the DXF, that's what this is here. To change your work area here, go to, I believe it's view, work area. I believe that 762 is the width. Yes, it is. We're good there. So let's say we have all that and we want to see what it looks like. Well, let's go to preview. Now, if we had forgotten to set some of the depth for a cut, here is where we can tell the program, hey, everything I didn't set a depth for, set it to 1 millimeter, set it to 1.5, whatever, 2.15, whatever we want, and then hit OK. And here's our visualization of our cut. That's the only thing so far that has left me a little bit lacking. I understand what this is trying to say. Is it some high rendered out visualization? No, but it's all the tool paths and I can get a pretty good sense of what's going on here. Let's just zoom in. We can see this outer ring where we're cutting. And on that 5.75, we're going 1 millimeter down. So I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know that's working well. We can also play our cutting sequence and then let's speed it up. And there it goes through the whole cutting sequence and we can speed it up, slow it down however we want, or we can select just a part here and it shows us that part, what it is cutting and what it's going to do. But let's say you don't like the cutting pattern of what's going on. Well, let's go to edit machining order. All right, so now we see a bunch of A's here. And let's say we want to do this inside island cut first. So if I click this A, that's 1. It's going to do that cut first. And then when it's done, I want it to do this cut and then this cut. And so we have 1, 2, 3, and it'll cut in that order. And then we hit OK. And now if we go to preview, there we go. It starts in our 1, moves to our 2, and goes to our 3, and then back home. And that's pretty much the simple explanation of Estlcam. There's still a lot more. Hey, y'all thought I forgot about exporting the G code. Well, I did, but that's okay. All right, I've made a few changes because I also want to show you, if you're using different bits, how to separate those out. So on this interior, we're still using the 5.75. On this one, I switched it over to the 2.15, and then again, the 5.75 on the outer cut. So let's go to Edit Machining Order. As you can see, I have the small bit as 1, this the larger bit as 2 and 3. You can go whatever order you want. You could put the big bits first and the small bit last, or have it this way, small and then big, whichever. Just try to group them all together. We're going to hit OK. Now let's go to generate the G code, and we'll call this test G code. Save. Do you want to replace? Yes. And now my wait begins. It gets longer and longer every G code I create. I'm at 36 seconds. That's okay though. I really like that about this, that instead of taking away anything, it just gets progressively longer and longer to do things. I like this software. I want to support it, so I am going to buy it. Even if I don't end up using it down the line, I want to encourage this kind of development and this kind of process. So I will be supporting this, even if I don't end up using it. And now I've talked long enough that we can hit OK. Now, we didn't set the depth for the yellow that you're seeing. So it's asking us how deep do we want to cut those. I'm going to set them both to 2.15 millimeters, hit OK. And here we go. Again, visualization, not, you know, nothing to write home about, but it is what it is, and you can tell what's going on. So let's go ahead and open up the G code here. And I forgot we got to close that out. Let's move that over here. And we're going to need to open up another notepad. So right here, required tools. This tells us for each number here, which bit is being used. So the first one is going to be the 2.15, and then the second one is the 5.75. So I'm just going to come out to the side here, Control F, tool, go find number 2, select there, go all the way down, copy, paste, come back over here, delete. We'll re-enter our ending G code, M05 and M30. Then we will go back up to the top here and on this one. And we're going to go ahead and grab all this above number 1 hole. Control V to paste it in here. Now we're going to save this, save as, and we'll call this 575 millimeter test dot NC. We got to save it as NC. Can't save it as a text doc. Otherwise it's not going to work. Do you want to replace it? I've already done this. Yes. Now we're going to come back to test G code. Now we're going to come over here, save as 215 millimeter test G code dot NC. And now we have 2 separate G codes for each of our bit, plus the original G code if we ever need to go back and use that for any reason. All right, everyone. So I don't need a H or any kind of logo cut out, but I did have some practical things that I could cut out, and you might notice a little blank here because that's for another project coming up, and you can see that video in a couple weeks. But I did have a need for a hose holder for my new dust collection system. So we got a 4-inch hole here that I can put my 4-inch to 2-inch adapter, and over here, we have a catch-all tray. I had found some magnets that my girls used on one of the projects they were doing, and I thought, hey, let's try it out. Let's see if we can make a box with magnets that will hold it together. Just FYI, those magnets are not very strong, but I am interested in the concept, so I'm going to get some stronger magnets on hold, and I'll update y'all when that happens. But let's just go over this cut real quick and this project. So for the dust filtration system, the hose adapter holder, we have a outside cut. So that's going to be a part cut. And all of these are going to be using the 2-flute down bit. And as you can see, you can even import a picture of your bit so you know which one it is. I think that's pretty cool. All right. Also on this, we do have some drill holes. We got 3, 6, 9 drill holes. I'm not going to be using all of them. That's just in case wherever I do decide to put it, if there's a screw holding my table together, I can work around it. But we have these drill holes here. Let's click on one of them here. And we're only going down 1.5 millimeters. This is just for guidance. So everything kind of looks nice when I actually do get it screwed into my table. But we are using the drill function here. So again, that's going to cut the size of the width of the bit. I know it says 6.22 millimeter here and 6.24. That's because when I use my calipers, that's what it measures. So that's what we're using there. Now let's look at this bit catch-all tray that I designed with the magnets. For the outside cuts, again, we're using the part. So we're cutting the outside of this tray. And then we're going to want to cut the inside on where the magnets are. So we have a hole cut. And we're going to go down 2 millimeters here so the magnets fit nice and neatly in there. And then we have a pocket cut right here. And that is also a hole because we want to cut out the inside of this area. And we did select a parallel pocketing method on this one. And we're going to go down 9 millimeters. So let's get this saved as G-code and on the LongMill. And here we are. Yes, the GoPro fritzed out on me and I lost a ton of footage, but I did get my pieces. Dust collection hose holder and my catch-all bit tray with magnets. Again, the magnets aren't the best, but it does its job. Overall, happy with the way they turned out. The cut file cut exactly how I expected it to. No surprises there. And that about wraps it up for this video. I have to say, I am highly impressed with this software. Is it a bit simple? Yes, that's okay. I can live with that because on the same side, it has a lot of features in it to give the user control of how their machine works. And for the price of $60 at time of this filming, that's just unbelievable. Sometimes you're paying $120 a year, if not more, for programs with less features than this. So go check out Estlcam. There'll be a link down below. If you like it, go ahead and buy it. It's $60. You own the software. That's $60 for this version, and you always have it. That's not $60 a year. $60 forever for all this, what you're seeing right here. Can't complain about that. Want to give a shout out to our sponsor, CNC Labs. Thank you all so much for everything you guys have made and do. You can really tell by the community that you guys have built around your company. And I want to thank all you viewers out there. And if you're not subscribed and you want to keep seeing more content like this, hit that subscribe and bell button down below. And until next time, keep making stuff.